This video will not discuss any spoilers for Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, but it does mention some late game content and plot points for other Pokémon games. As a kid, looking up everything that I could about the upcoming Pokémon games was just part of what I did while waiting to get my hands on them. With Gen 2, just the idea that there were more Pokémon out there was thrilling, and so I kept up with each official reveal through the Brazilian magazine. In Gen 3 and Gen 4, I was part of an online community of forum that I used to run called the Pokémon Mutation Factory. Keeping up with the news was just part of how we engaged with each other and with the community at large. So I was on Cerebi every day looking up what was new and expectantly waiting the next set of CoroCoro magazine scans. This practice of looking at everything culminated in Gen 5, when I went on Cerebi's new Pokemon section and looked at the sprites for every Pokemon shortly after Black and White came out in Japan. But that meant that there were no new Pokemon left for me to discover organically through the gameplay, and I really missed that feeling of discovery. There were probably other reasons that I didn't have as much fun with the Gen 5 games at the time of their release. For example, activity on the forum had kind of died down by then, so I wasn't as much a part of a community at that time. But I definitely felt like I knew too much. So with Gen 6 being the first simultaneous global release, I figured it was a good opportunity for me to try not knowing as much. I frankly don't fully remember what I did or did not look at the time. I know that I saw at least some of the official marketing, but I also know that I did not look at anything unofficial. It was Indigo who looked up the starter evolutions and told me to pick Froakie.
Did you like my choice?
Oh, yes. And I had a great experience with that. Finding out what my starter was going to turn into as it evolved was really exciting. So starting with Gen 7, I've been following a strict blackout schedule. I look at official marketing around the reveal of the game, but about 4 months before the release, or longer like I did for Legends, I stopped looking at anything. No trailers, no Cerebi, no Twitter, no YouTube homepage. I adjust how I interact with all of these platforms and go out of my way to encounter as little as possible. I think that was the right decision for me. My first experience of each game has been wonderful. Even if later on, as I'm reflecting on some of the game design choices and things like that, I can see where the games fall short, there's still more than enough excitement and surprise for me to have fun with the game the first time around. But while I know that I'm not alone in this experience, I also know that there's plenty of people out there with the exact opposite experience. People who get more enjoyment out of a game the more they know about it going in. So I got curious about what the consensus is around the community, if there even is a consensus, what the spectrum of experiences is, and how my particular point of view compares to everyone else's. So, with the help of some of my patrons, I designed a survey, asking generally the same set of questions about spoilers, about leaks, and about rumors. The questions were about how people define these terms, what they seek out or avoid, and what the benefits or drawbacks are, and what steps they think people should take to avoid seeing information that they don't want to see, or to avoid showing that information to others. The survey gained nearly 1,500 responses total, with over 500 long-form responses in video, audio, or text format. Plus, I did some interviews with some of my fellow content creators and other friends. The diversity of opinions really stood out to me, so while I obviously can't share every response with you, I want to get as close as possible to the full range of opinions. So buckle in, because this is going to be a long one. As we go through the results, you will hear the direct words of over 100 community members. The responses were mostly anonymous, but if people identified to themselves, you will hear or read their names. Those who submitted video or audio, you will hear their actual voices. And those who submitted text, their words will appear on screen and me and a few friends will read them out to you. Some of them have been edited for clarity and brevity, and I did cut references to specific creators, but not more than that. Before we get to that though, I want to quickly acknowledge that these results are not perfect. I'm not a data scientist, and I think there might have been at least one issue with how the survey was presented that might have compromised the data on some of the questions. Also, 1,500 is a lot of responses, but it certainly isn't representative of the entire Pokemon community. The results obviously skew to my audience and my extended network. It doesn't capture the experience of Japanese fans, for example, or non-English speakers in general. But for what it does cover, I think the data's solid. Alright, so let's begin with some definitions, because as it turns out, what people consider spoilers, leaks, and rumors varies a lot.
There's a lot of different kinds of spoilers, and what people consider spoilers varies a lot. I think people too often assume that everyone magically agrees on what is or isn't a spoiler. I personally consider anything that exposes you to a part of some kind of art before you would even get to actually experience it within its intended context a spoiler to some degree.
For most people, spoilers include significant plot details or anything that was not shown in official advertising.
Hi, I'm Michael, more widely known as MNJTV. Anything that is like a new reveal of like a new Pokemon, like before the games come out, that's like official, I just call that news.
Official sources like the Pokemon YouTube channel and websites are a blurry line between marketing material and spoilers. Lately, though, it seems like they've been doing a lot less spoiling and a lot more marketing, which is great. For about half the people, spoilers include new content such as new Pokemon or mechanics, or anything that happens late in the game. But for 20% of people, spoilers are just anything that they don't already know about. And I include myself in that.
I think that prior to the release of the game, any info not officially revealed is a spoiler. Post-release, there should be a wait period to talk about anything not officially revealed or extremely early game.
And that's another important aspect. When does something stop being a spoiler?
Hi, my name's Amber. My channel is Primitiva. That's an interesting question because, let's say January next year, can you then talk about the finale of Scarlet and Violet? How long do you wait? Personally, I like to wait around a month, but even then I'm so cautious. I ask people, have you beaten this game? And publicly, I'll probably talk about it in like a month, but I feel like anything past 3 months, I feel like that's fair game.
Hey, I am Ron from True Green 7. I'd say 2 weeks for general spoilers. Like the Volo stuff, I would still be angry 2 weeks in because that's really post-game stuff. I could be playing in a slow pace. So 2 weeks I would say is not enough for literal post-game plot twists.
Spoilers become less important after the game is released and if it's been out for a year. Feel free to talk about spoilers about it. I would say ask first to be polite, but I've never played Pokemon Sun, for example. The events in the game would be a spoiler for me if you talked about it.
The data says it's about 50-50 whether things stop being a spoiler as soon as the game launches or not, and we'll talk more about launch day later. For the purposes of the survey, my working definition was any significant information that may reduce surprise or otherwise alter the experience of a first-time player. But even though I included this definition and definitions for all of the other terms in the survey, it's very likely that not everyone read them or kept them in mind for the rest of their responses.
I think that each one of the things in this form are different from each other. Leaks include spoilers, rumors include leaks, and spoilers are the main issue for everyone.
The definition of a rumor is a bit more concrete. Almost everyone agrees that anything that isn't confirmed is a rumor. My working definition was information that is not confirmed by official sources. But where it gets complicated is whether people count leaks as rumors.
I used to be excited to discuss rumors and predictions, but now the line between rumor and leak is so thin that I avoid talking about unreleased news at all.
I find it annoying that so many leakers are spreading rumors.
Strictly speaking, something is only a leak if it's true. If it's not true, it's either a rumor or a fabrication pretending to be a leak. So the definition in the survey was information not revealed through official marketing that is eventually confirmed to be true.
Hey, I'm Dusty from Dusty Go Goat. I think leaks in 2022 mean something very different because there are certain people who are leaking things who have a credible track record. And I think that's different than what a leak used to mean when it came from 4chan or Twitter, even just as far back as 2019.
But there's a reason Joe Merrick pins this tweet for months at a time every year. We don't use these terms consistently. Content creators shouldn't share or spread rumors, period, and people should consider any unofficial shared info to be a rumor until proven otherwise.
I treat any potential leaks that are 2 months before the release as potentially true, and anything before those 2 months is likely false. Of course, it's not foolproof, and I've noticed more credible information is given around release date in terms of leaks/spoilers. I'd rather see information that's more likely to be true than information that is more likely to be false.
Most people will call information that is revealed through unofficial sources a leak, but only slightly more people will add the requirement that it is eventually confirmed to be true. I probably could have avoided some of that confusion if I'd put the questions about rumors before the ones about leaks. The truth requirement might have been more clear in that case, but I didn't. So just keep in mind as we go along that when people talk about leaks, they're not always talking about what is confirmed. Further blurring the line on what is considered a leak are fakes. Usually fan art or other posts that try to imitate the look of leaks or official posts to try to trick people into treating them as real.
If it's fake and you made it, share it all around because that's funny.
I used to actually like leaks when it was a bunch of people drawing Fakemon and passing it off as Koro scans. There was a bit of mystery of it, if it was real or not, and it gave us things like the Acorn Duck and Mega Klinklang. Now it's just leakers telling us everything about the new game. It's not fun anymore.
One thing that is interesting about, leaks and stuff are the fake leaks. People just make up their own leaks, and I feel like that's really creative. Like I remember with Gen 8, there was like this Fakemon like bug thing that was flying around.
Pokemon leakers are fine. I don't care about them, but people who take every single leak they see as true until proven otherwise are my least favorite people ever. Please shut up. 90% of the time it looks so horribly fake, and is. And stop pretending you'd be this excited if it was real.
And finally, a whopping 47.6% of people said that a leek is a vegetable.
Very delicious, wonderful veggie.
But that was a trick meme question. Leeks the vegetable are spelled with 2 E's, not EA. Alright, so we're going to dive into rumors first, just because they're the least controversial and also the easiest to cover separately. The reasons that people seek out or avoid leaks and spoilers are much more entwined, so we'll cover those together in a bit. People's attitudes towards rumors is largely indifferent, with over 50% saying that they neither seek nor avoid rumors. In these graphs, 1 stands for avoiding at all costs, and 5 stands for actively seeking out. Rumors don't affect the habits of the vast majority of people, with under 7% saying that they go out of their way to avoid them. YouTube videos are the main place where people see rumors. By the way, in a lot of these questions, there was an other option where you could type in an option that I didn't think of. I did my best to consolidate these responses to highlight the ones that multiple people brought up. For the people who seek out rumors, 2 benefits stand out. 2/3 of people said that it helps them feel part of the community, and 3/4 said that it helps them build excitement.
I feel rumors benefit the final project, as it lets the developers know what the fanbase is excited about.
Rumors and speculation can be good for a game and the community, as it can lead to more anticipation and excitement for a game without spoiling what's actually in the game, so letting certain people stay oblivious even if the rumor is true.
Rumor mills and speculation are the lifeblood of modern marketing strategies, and sometimes essential for the long-term health of a game.
I find it really fun to speculate, even if the conclusions reached end up being incorrect. The evolutions of a generation's starters, the appearance and role of a 3rd major legendary, that time the Ultra Beasts were revealed and a bunch of people thought there might be a connection to the human characters they resembled, love it. As long as the whole thing isn't being spoiled, fuel the fires of the imagination.
While the rumors can be exciting and engaging, they can also lead to unrealistic expectations and overhyping.
And that was the main drawback of rumors, and we'll include here the purported leaks that are unconfirmed or untrue. People tend to get overly attached to their own expectations of what the game should be, which is usually based on inaccurate, unofficial, or otherwise unreliable information. This, without fail, tends to cause a lot of outrage when the final product is released, even if it's a genuinely well-made product because of the disparity between the official information and fans' expectations.
Having high expectations that don't end up panning out or coming true can really affect mental health and give me anxiety, but I don't think it ever happened to me in the context of Pokemon rumors. I take all rumors with a grain of salt.
Balio is better than Primarina in every way. Forever in our hearts.
Something that I was specifically interested in finding out is where people think the balance of responsibility lies. I mean, how much is it the responsibility of content creators, the people putting information out there, to safeguard their audiences against seeing something they don't want to see, versus how much is it the responsibility of the consumer, of the audience themselves, to go out of their way to avoid seeing those things? We'll go more into that later, but I thought it was interesting that when it comes to rumors specifically, a lot more people say that creators are off the hook. 26% of people say that it is not the creator's responsibility, while only 18% say that it's not the consumer's responsibility.
For a lot of the "what should a content creator do" questions, I put both "it's not their job" option, and options I think they should take. I don't think they have to shield their audiences from these things, but our society has decided that it is polite to let people avoid spoilers if they wish, And the things I checked, I think, are more politeness guidelines than rules.
Letting your audience know that you'll be discussing a rumor, or where possible, tagging something as a rumor, are good practices to have. On the consumer side, if you don't want to see rumors, most people expect that you will go out of your way to avoid seeing them. These best practices were also consistent with the other two categories. Alright, let's turn our attention to leaks and spoilers. There is a lot of overlap in the reasons that people seek and avoid these types of content, so it'll be best to cover them together. What surprised me is that people are actually more favorable to leaks than to spoilers. Only 13.9% seek out spoilers, while 18.2% seek out leaks. 20.8% go out of their way to avoid leaks, while 27.5% go out of their way to avoid spoilers. The average attitudes lean more towards avoidance in both cases, but for leaks, it's much more evenly distributed. People encounter leaks and spoilers in pretty similar spaces. Sometimes they come from unexpected places.
The worst is when Google autofills a search that ends up becoming a big spoiler. That shiz straight up sucks.
It's really annoying how it's just normalized in the community to freely talk about them openly under official accounts and accounts that only show official news, like Cerebi. With YouTube, once you've hit Do Not Recommend Channel, on the dozen at most big spoiler channels you're probably fine, but with comments it's literal hundreds if not thousands.
YouTube and Twitter are by far the biggest sources for both leaks and spoilers. For spoilers, thumbnails are the worst offender on YouTube, while for leaks, it's the videos themselves.
The way social media has evolved, it pushes content to complete strangers based on how well or how much people engage with a piece of content. So I think leaks can be a problem, like sharing leaks can be a problem on platforms like Twitter and Instagram. But on a platform like YouTube, there is a barrier, right? The barrier is the thumbnail.
Our own audiences probably have a good idea of whether they're interested in the video. Between the title and the thumbnail, I can hopefully give enough information to anyone so that they know whether they want to click and watch or not. But we don't have that luxury with the content of the thumbnail and the titles themselves. Those can be shown to people who have never heard of us. So thumbnail etiquette, let's say, is something that came up in a lot of responses.
You know, there's a game involved, right? With, you know, you can call it clickbait, but there's a game involved where I try to make something exciting, but I never directly put an actually leaked thing in the thumbnail, right? So like, I feel like that is the choice people can make.
Keeping leaks and spoilers out of thumbnails and titles is not hard to do. It's like the bare minimum you can do for your community as a content creator. Please, keep them out of your titles and thumbnails.
Content creators and fellow friends should really respect those who find more enjoyment going in blind. It's not going to hurt you to tag posts better, or not put spoilers and links and thumbnails and damage the experience for others. You get to discuss it, and people who don't want aren't forced to see or read things they don't want to or know yet. That's win-win.
Hi there, my name is Rex. I run the YouTube channel GatorX. I guess more recently my thumbnail style has kind of been screenshot of the Pokémon, screenshot of like its Pokedex entry or information from the website, and then funny yellow text that says, wow, whoa, LOL, something like that.
Leaks and spoilers are the worst thing about being a Pokemon fan. I understand some people have to make money, but I've unsubbed from many PokeTubers because they like to put leaks and spoilers in their thumbnails. I have no issue with people that like to discuss all that stuff because it is very easy to avoid it on Twitter and Reddit, but YouTube recommended is unkind and will throw that junk right in your face.
I don't want to stop following and supporting content for some of my favorite creators, but when I'm scrolling through YouTube and just see video thumbnails and community posts discussing the information, it makes it almost impossible.
Yeah, so I'm Hybrid Hero. I just get a Pokemon, highlight it in black, put a question mark, outline it. It doesn't even have to be like a leaked Pokemon. It can be a fan art. It can be a Pokemon from Dark and Windy, for example. And then I'll have like an arrow or like a red circle pointing towards it to show that's new. Typical clickbait stuff, right?
Leaks can upset my mood temporarily and make me disappointed. I want to discover things on my own, and it annoys me whenever I get recommended a video that has real leaks inside the thumbnail.
In the lead up to Legends Arceus, I was convinced that we were going to get Hisuian forms for the starters. And so I made a video where I had some fan art made of like my ideas for them, and I used those in the thumbnail. But that is really the only situation where I will like use something that's not official, where it's like, this is a theory, here's my design. Part of the reason I have the policy I do is because of the size of my audience. If I decide to put a leak in the thumbnail that people don't want to see, it's going to impact a lot more people.
Someone will leave a comment saying, why are you showing a leaked Pokemon in the thumbnail? And my response is, I didn't show a leaked Pokemon in the thumbnail. It's an artist's depiction of something that they imagine the piece of information might be or something.
Content creators need to take more responsibility for what is shown in their thumbnails with clear labelings for spoilers, rumors, and leaks in tags or titles. I have seen countless Paldea Starter League confirmed videos with Fakemon artist designs in thumbnails, appearing even with steps taken to avoid it.
You may wonder why it is that so many creators cover this kind of thing.
Yeah, my name is Ben, otherwise known as Tam Valley Productions. Yeah, I see, big hype seasons and big releases like Scarlet and Violet as like great opportunities for me to grow as a creator and build my community further.
Being a YouTuber, you just have to kind of be in the know with things, right? Even like forget the games, for example, like even if you're doing like Pokemon anime, the people who are keeping up with spoilers or like watching the Japanese episodes or anything, they're well ahead of anyone doing that's not keeping up with that stuff, right? And the same thing I find with the games, just to have that edge, not to compete with anybody else per se, but just for my own sake, I'm like, I just feel the need to indulge in all of it.
Spoilers and rumors honestly run way too rampant from clickbaity YouTubers and leak accounts. I usually try to block those accounts, but obviously I can't block them all, and they sure as hell won't be stopping anytime soon, since it's the clout they're after.
When I went to India and I came back, I wasn't able to get traction with my YouTube channel. Leaks and rumors can really bring up a channel, because that's what's hot, right? When there's no Pokemon information especially. But then the thing I found was, when BDSP settled down, I wasn't able to make regular content anymore. My viewership wasn't there. It was just there for leaks and rumors. So I did PLA rumors, and that did decent. And then PLA came out and I made a few videos. It did great. And after that, it died again. So I unfortunately got into the cycle of leaks and rumors, only making content for leaks and rumors. It sounds contradictory, but I'm trying to make leaks and rumors for Scarlet and Violet because, again, I know I can get viewership off of it. But alongside that, hopefully I can make some evergreen content, because if I make evergreen content now, I think evergreen content should do well later. Trying to do it alongside the leaks and rumors now.
The culture around using leaks as clickbait or using them to chase clout like many YouTubers and influencers do is toxic. It makes leaking as a whole look scummy when it really inherently isn't.
I had like a mediocre start last year, and I felt like the rumors really got me traction, and that's what got people commenting and engaging with my stuff. So I leaned into that. I leaned into it until leak season happened, and that was like the majority of what I did. And what I noticed is as soon as the game like BDSP and Legends came out, I saw a huge viewership dip, really steep, and that's because I had only really built like an audience of like news. But yeah, definitely the leaks performed the best. If you look at my top videos, they are leaks. There's some other ones that are still high performing, which I'm proud of, and I'm trying to lean it more into those. But yeah, the leaks definitely are the highest performing videos, which can be disappointing.
I feel like that's part of the shift, in my opinion, as well, because like the lead up to Sun and Moon, I was not a full-time YouTuber. Sun and Moon came out when I was a senior in college, intending to go full-time once I graduated. And so at that point in time, it was like, I'm trying to make a living here. I'm trying to make sure this risky career that I am moving into is going to work. So I felt like, oh, I need to do this to like try and make sure I'm financially secure and everything is good. Whereas now I've more established, I'm more financially secure in my career. And so I'm like, I don't feel like I don't need to do that.
There is a balance that we need to look for between making a thumbnail that people will click on and making sure not to accidentally spoil people. Even when we think that something is safe to cover, there will be people that don't want to see it.
Because the PokeTubers need content. It can be hard to find the trailer hidden under the spoilers. This ruined the Legends Arceus reveal for me.
I happen to make a video after a trailer comes out. I think I do get a few complaints here and there, and especially after making a little community post saying, hey, this Pokemon was revealed, I'm going to make a video about it. Yeah, I've gotten complaints about that. If you're using YouTube on desktop or even YouTube on mobile, you'll go to the home page first before your subscription page. I think other people's videos can get recommended before you end up, making it to subscription to check, oh, Pokemon uploaded this new video. I know everyone has different schedules, but you kind of count for that. But the way I see it is that if I'm making a reaction to this trailer or a breakdown of this trailer and the trailer is already officially out, then that should be fine. Unfortunately, I still feel bad that, this funky looking Pokemon ended up getting spoiled maybe who knows, 5 minutes before this person would have seen the trailer, but it still doesn't feel good.
Hi, my name's Kayla. My channel name is Kayla's Capsule. I remember there was one person who was upset that I mentioned something very vaguely. I was very careful to mention the spoiler like as vaguely as possible, and then they just kind of figured it out. But like they could have been wrong. They could have been wrong. They just happened to guess it correctly.
When a new game releases, I get a lot of videos in my feed on said game, which I don't control. And what ends up happening is that quickly after the release, I see many thumbnails, and so I end up getting spoiled. This happened with Legends Arceus, where I was spoiled Volo's role and his involvement with Giratina, ruining the surprise for me. I shouldn't have to drastically change how I engage with content because content creators feel the need to put new content on their thumbnails so close to the release of the game.
So thumbnails are tricky because creators need to make something eye-catching, but not everyone wants to see those eye-catching things. But creators are making those videos covering leaks and spoilers because it's where the views are. It's easy money, and I say that with no shade whatsoever, especially to those who are still trying to become more established. So I think it's finally time for us to have a closer look at why people look for that kind of content and why others try to avoid it. Generally speaking, the main reasons that people seek spoilers involve knowing what to expect and deciding whether to get the games. For leaks, building excitement, engaging with the community, and again, knowing what to expect stand out. That makes it sound like people are more or less on the same page, but if you look at the specific reasons why people seek this kind of content, it's incredibly diverse.
I'm Fable. Spoilers, basically show me what I'm missing out on and then trigger the FOMO response. The biggest example I have is English class in high school and middle school, where I would start reading the book and then I would get too bored, but then the teacher would start teaching the book and we'd get to the final lesson and I'd be like, that's the twist of the book? Okay, I have to see how that actually happens. And or I'd hear one really good quote and be like, okay, I have to figure out what leads up to that. Either that or just if you see something really cool, you want to get into it. She-Ra is a good example. You find out that Catra and Adora are super gay for each other. That makes me really interested as a gay person.
I spoiled myself than someone else spoiled me. I have been spoiled in other things like Jujutsu Kaisen, Boruto, whatever. And those have all happened through other people spoiling me. And it's always been man, why did they have to do it, right? But this is all me.
For me, leaks are part of a new Pokemon cycle. I think that was true even before I was making Pokemon content, but I used to have a group chat where if I saw something, I'd screenshot it, send it to my friends, and that's where the discussion would begin. Is this real? 2, how cool would that be? 3, how could this expand? What would this mean in the future? That's where I get most of my excitement leading up to a new Pokemon game. There's nothing better than the flood of comments of, whoa, this is this? That means this is going to be in the game, and what if this is in the game in 3 years, and is there going to be DLC? That gets me so excited.
I am fully a fan of hype season, especially with the franchises I love. For me, it's just another way to remember the generation, right? I mean, we're all Pokemon fans. I think we love kind of the generational cycle. We love discovering the new Pokemon. We love, hearing the new music, playing the new games, learning about all the new features, just getting immersed in the region. Hype season, watching the trailers, interacting with people socially on Twitter, Discord, YouTube. It's just a way to extend that and kind of get the hype going before even play the game.
I love to see new Pokemon leaked for the hype train and race to draw it, but do always hope that there's a few that make it past my radar to find organically in-game.
I often find myself excited by the release of each new game from a franchise I love. However, the suspense of the game's approaching kills me, so the drip feed of leaks, pardon the pun, gives me the splashes of excitement I need throughout my day to sustain my hype until the day of release.
This is another factor, right? When there's nothing to talk about, I find leaks and rumors are very easy to jump into because everyone's looking for that. Not everybody, but a lot of people.
A lot of people brought up that looking at this kind of information helps alleviate some kind of worry or even anxiety that they have about the games.
That's a similar thing that I experienced, and it's actually the reason why I looked at leaks in the past, where it's ooh, I'm kind of worried about this aspect. I want to hear any new thing that could alleviate my fear or whatever, and then sometimes they do.
I was thinking about it because I'm also exploring my autism a lot more. is there's also the sense of like familiarity. We like having structure, and like knowing what you are getting before you go into it does help a little bit.
For others, it's just impossible to resist. I have no self-control and seek them out like a goddamn moth to a flame. Maybe I am ruining part of the experience for myself, but I do also get a lot of enjoyment from engaging in the community surrounding these.
I would like to avoid the leaks, but then I almost never am able to resist the temptation. If there's a leak that's proven legit by like it releases a group of information and then like a part of that group is proven real by like an official release, then I'm like, oh, well, now I'm curious.
I get the fact that an impactful thumbnail with rumors, leaks, and spoilers on it will grab people from their chin, but I think content creators should encourage a slower-paced kind of lifestyle. We are used to getting all we want when we want, but in my opinion, it is only right to take life with a little bit more serene and relaxed approach and start to enjoy things on a slower and calmer pace.
Being excited and passionate about games is important. It lets creators know you're interested in their product and that you support them. Speculation and discussion can build healthy excitement for a game. However, I think it's also possible to be too excited, too passionate, and too impatient for more information. I think putting too much faith in rumors can get your hopes up and can ultimately tarnish your feelings about a product. I think it's important to remember that eventually the game will be out, and it will be sooner than you think. Getting to play it is ultimately more fun than just following hype, and then the next thing will come along.
Our society as a whole, we have a problem with instant gratification. We don't want to wait for something. We want it now, and we want it now, and then we want something again, and again, and again, and again.
For a few people, the draw of leaks, or rather of purported leaks, isn't trying to figure out what is true or not.
I tend to occasionally seek out leaks because I enjoy finding information that has evidence but has not been confirmed. It's exciting when you're hoping information is true and it gets confirmed later.
I like it when spoilers are presented more as a puzzle, because then it feels like you're actually working towards finding things. And a lot of those have been very minor spoilers as opposed to something major. Like, it's not plot events in the story. It's more like, oh, there's going to be this Pokemon in the game, which is less intense.
People responsible for rumors sometimes end their credibility. And I hate these riddles. When a rumor is confirmed, the next is considered a leak.
A very common reason to seek out this kind of information is to plan out your Pokemon team.
When it comes to Pokemon specifically, I really just want to know about a new Pokemon. But it won't bother me if I hear about game mechanics or major plot points. I just want to plan out my team ahead of time and talk about it with my friends.
I like to know what the new options are ahead of time to go after them and to ultimately choose what starter I go for. Applin and Appleton's leaked reveal absolutely make me fall in love with it so hard that I tried to get that Pokemon as soon as possible.
I enjoy keeping up with official marketing, but don't like leaks. That being said, the one spoiler I will actively seek out, if it's not in marketing, is the starter evolutions. I dislike the lack of surprise, but I've been disappointed by my starter evolution before, and that was much, much worse.
There's a difficult choice between being surprised when you find something new and the risk of missing something you would have wanted. So if there's like a really awesome new Pokemon that I would absolutely want to use, but it's rare or it's tucked away, and I don't look up the list of the new Pokemon and I don't look up like where it's found, then there's a very high chance I miss it and I don't get to use it.
The only time I ever look at leaks is when I want to know how to evolve a Pokemon. And most of the time, I'm glad I do. Looking at you, you mask.
I believe leaks and spoilers can become an incentive to prepare yourself to complete the game and be wary of the toughest obstacles that'll be in your way. By the end of Pokemon Legends, I wanted to train my team to stock up on healing items for the last trainer battle that I looked for online before attempting, and managed to win on my first attempt where I would have otherwise lost countless times if I came unprepared.
I was excited for the return of many of my favourite Pokemon in the Isle of Armor DLC. Data miners found out which remaining Pokemon would return in the Crown Tundra DLC. Using this information as somebody without the Pokemon Sword or Shield DLC, I thought it would be a good idea to trade for these leaked Pokemon on Pokemon Home to avoid trading on Crown Tundra release. Spoilers and leaks help me prepare for future games, and that's what I love about them.
I play Pokemon almost solely for the competitive aspect, so learning about new Pokemon's typing, moves, abilities, etc. helps me prepare and get excited for the new metagame. The full Dex leak and stat data mine near game launch is my favorite time in the leak cycle for a new Pokemon game.
For a lot of people who feel unsure about whether they will like the game or who just haven't been happy with the direction of the franchise recently, leaks and spoilers can provide that extra information that they need to make their decision of whether to give the games a chance or not.
Since Gen 8, leaks about gameplay elements are what make me decide whether I buy the game or not, given the disappointment of the wild area and how unpolished certain areas of the game were. Things Game Freak didn't discuss or show much of. But at the same time, seeing gameplay and mechanics of Legends Arceus made me want to buy the game, because even if the graphic choices were questionable at times, the gameplay itself looked fun.
Spoilers and leaks can help you decide to get the game based on the most information available as a consumer.
Going in blind is cringe. Knowing what you're getting yourself into is based.
I think leaks helps games sell if they're good and not sell if they're bad, especially if official marketing is lacking or misleading.
With the state these games are in, I don't know how anybody can buy these games without knowing more than trailer stuff about them. People who avoid even the trailers and buy blindly are cheating themselves out of very useful information.
Before I slap down $60, I would like to know if my undercooked meal is going to be a little doughy in the center but edible like Sword and Shield, or are we talking BDSP chicken sashimi with a side of salmonella?
On the other hand, for people who love Pokemon but can't play the games for a variety of reasons, looking at spoilers and leaks or just following the hype season more generally can provide a vicarious experience of the games.
I don't own a Nintendo Switch, but I still like to know what's going on in the game's lore, and I enjoy watching Let's Plays. Since I don't intend to play the games myself, whether I find new info on YouTube videos or watching someone else play the game is irrelevant to me.
8 times out of 10, I probably can't acquire the game in question, no money anyway, so I take the spoiler and say, neat, then move on with my life.
I don't have the ability to play the latest games, but I love seeing the leaks that happen and the general excitement that they stir in the community. It's about the lightness of seeing others' takes in things and how everyone interprets things differently. That makes me consume media even if I can't play it.
As for avoiding leaks and spoilers, over 70% mentioned the loss of the feeling of discovery or the element of surprise as major factors. But again, when you look at the details, it's more diverse. For a lot of people, leaks just aren't how Pokemon are meant to be discovered.
I think when I say that a leak, rumor, or spoiler has not influenced my decision to play a game, I mean more that yes, I still played the game, but having that element spoiled for me, particularly through leaks like character models or sprites, just kind of soured the experience. Like when Glastrier and Spectrier's models were leaked ahead of the Crown Tundra's release, it would have been nice to see these previously completely unrevealed Pokemon when actually playing the DLC for myself, rather than seeing the models at a glance in an untagged leak and just having that knowledge in the back of my brain through my first playthrough.
There were lots of leaks for Pokemon Legends, which made me dislike the Typhlosion evolution and almost made me pick something else. But the in-game model is a lot better. The leak was just done really poorly.
I'd rather see a new Pokemon officially announced than see a blurry image of it.
I will consume the leaks sometimes, but I would definitely prefer if there were never leaks. I think it definitely has hurt the experience of many people when, for example, they see their first impression of Pokemon is just like an image, especially in the last 2 generations where a lot of the Pokemon are designed with 3D consideration and how they move and what they do in the game. They gain new forms or aspects of their biology is expressed only through battle. A critique by a person who has consumed leaks is way more biased or compromised than a person who hasn't consumed leaks, because their expectations are completely different when entering the game and unrealistic because they've already consumed basically the game in a way that the company didn't want them to consume, that the artist didn't want them to experience.
Pokemon is easily one of the worst series I have seen when it comes to leaks. It can make it really hard to be part of the discussion of new Pokemon games when you're on red alert from getting spoiled or getting told false information.
Pokemon fans hype themselves up over nothing because the franchise is just kind of a trash heap in a lot of ways, and people keep paying for it. This ongoing dissection of a game as it comes out is tedious and just sucks the fun out. I don't care if typing is good or trash. I just care about the Pokemons and peoples and places, the 3 Ps, being cool.
Honestly, I feel much the same way about leaks as I do about data mining. It's just a poor attitude towards consuming games, trying to claw everything into the open as quick as possible, rather than enjoying the possibility of discovery. Perhaps secrets should be allowed to stay secret to preserve the experience.
Leaks just kind of feel like cheating. I don't look at them even for games I don't care about.
I honestly think it undermines the whole game. Pokemon is about discovery and exploration, the wonder of mysteries in its world. Spoilers, leaks, etc. just take that away.
The less you know going into a new game, the more you can discover. This is the reason, I believe, for the general consensus of Blue in the original games being the best rival, because back then nobody really knew much going in, and it was a brand new journey learning the type matchups, abilities, stats, and team members. This, plus encountering brand new Pokemon through exploration or evolution, enhances the experience.
Spoilers to a game can demotivate me to explore and experience it to its fullest. I only want enough story info to get me interested. I don't mind spoilers existing because some people's experience is helped rather than hindered by it, but they typically are not for me.
I find games are more enjoyable when you don't know what to expect in them.
There aren't a lot of things I get to experience as a true surprise in my adult life, and Pokemon is something that still brings me a lot of joy. I don't want all the surprises ruined before I get to see them myself.
I decided to go into Sun and Moon completely blind. When I finally got it, I was blown away. It was amazing to getting to experience something without the shackles of expectations.
As a player, my personal focus is on the story. I remember being spoiled for the end of Legends Arceus, and I was actually a little disappointed since I didn't get to enjoy it for myself. A lot of people said it had been such a twist, but I couldn't experience that because I had been spoiled. You can never regain the ability to experience it for the first time without knowing what's coming.
I also have done some research on different studies that are related to spoilers and people's enjoyment of stories. You kind of have two different schools of thought, but the overall consensus is that it depends on the type of spoiler. If it's a spoiler that's going to reveal an important plot detail about the story, that's probably not so good. But if it's a spoiler that just reveals some sort of content that's going to be in the story at some point, then it's not as bad. So I think that when it comes to spoilers, we do have to be pretty careful because it could potentially warp our experience in ways, potentially positive ways, potentially negative ways, depending on what spoilers we see.
I don't look at story spoilers because I think that is a part of the game that I would like to enjoy for the first time. And we saw in Legends Arceus, there actually were story beats that could have been spoiled for me. There actually felt like there was emotional weight to the story beats that happened throughout the game, where I was wow, I was actually getting emotional like you would when watching a movie.
If your purpose of it is to experience it the first time, and you put so much emphasis on the first time, then it kind of devalues the art every time you watch it or interact with it or whatever. Yeah, so twist endings are one of those things where I've just never cared too much. I replayed Arceus to get Second in Amorous. That was really cool, seeing all the foreshadowing that Volo drops.
The leaks that I happen to see that hurt the most when I accidentally do see them or, did see them was here's the final area. Here's a screenshot of Ultra Space, or here's, Volo with Giratina.
I think almost with the existence of spoilers and the internet, it's very good that they have these multiplayer aspects to the game because then you can have stories that are unique to you and your friends that are completely separate from spoilers. It's this is a very unique experience that you and your friends have together as opposed to something that's dictated by the game.
I honestly seek out visual spoilers only for Pokemon and potential characters. That's it. I very much do not want any story spoilers. Maybe even I don't need mechanic spoilers. But honestly, I don't mind hearing mechanic spoilers. I'm trying to do it less than I did before because honestly, I did spoil myself too much for, let's say, Sword and Shield.
I really enjoy speculating about the story based on leaks, spoilers, rumors, etc. I actively avoid any non-officially revealed information specifically about the story of the game, which is what I care about most. I like to learn certain things about the Pokemon of the region to help me be able to do that.
I usually tend to avoid stuff that's considered a big reveal, for example, a plot twist to the final boss, major endgame elements, etc. The only exception is with new Pokemon, so that I can plan out my team in advance.
For me, rumors build hype and keep the conversation and speculation going in the run-up to release, as do minor leaks, such as a new Pokemon design or information about general gameplay. But I don't want to know anything game-breaking, like story spoilers, plot twists, or anything intended to be a surprise reveal. Seeing a Pokemon's evolution or finding out there'll be a regional form of X is fine, since I like to plan a balanced team before I play a game.
Whenever stuff leaks, because every Pokemon game, like about a week before or so, a bunch of stuff leaks, I tend to look at those, especially if the final evolutions of the starters are not out yet, because I want to know which one to pick. Because the final evolution is what I care about. I will say Pokemon is the only game I ever look at leaks, though. It's a lot more relevant to my career.
I play a lot of story-driven games, so in general, I tend to avoid spoilers at all costs. But Pokemon's a little bit different. I still try to avoid story spoilers, but I tend to like to plan out my teams in advance. So at least in the last couple of weeks leading up to a game's release, I'll start seeking out leaks. And especially for the starters, I can't choose a starter and risk not liking its evolution. I need to see those starter evolutions, even if it's from leaks.
I've been in Pokemon communities for over 10 years, and it's not the kind of game I expected spoilers to be a particular issue. The stories are certainly not the part of the Pokemon game you're really there for, at least for us old fans. The standard progression of 8 gyms, evil teams, legendaries somehow ending the world, they're all very cookie cutter. These aspects being revealed make me think, okay, so it's just like every other Pokemon game. I'm not surprised. The things that spark excitement for me in the lead up to a new game are normally quality of life improvements, new Pokemon designs, and mechanics. These could probably be described as spoilers, but they don't feel offensive at all to learn about.
I have discovered that I enjoy the Pokemon I use a lot more if I did not know about them beforehand. A lot of people hated Crabominable in Sun and Moon, yet it's one of my all-time favorites because it was the only one I hadn't seen before. I knew Crabrawler evolved, but seeing that big goofball after evolving made me incredibly happy.
X and Y I followed the marketing. As a result, none of the Pokemon were exciting to me when I played it, so I used old Pokemon and half the game was spent waiting for Mega Evolution to show up. It really put a damper on the experience. Sun and Moon, I went full blackout. Everything was new and exciting. What was this type null? Whoa, did you see what that wishy-washy did? I used a full team of new Pokemon because I wanted to know what they were and what they evolved into. It was truly one of my best experiences playing a Pokemon game.
Part of the wonder of Pokemon is their evolutions. Not knowing what they'll turn into as they start glowing brings me so much joy, and I'd never want to take that away from myself or others.
Hi, my name is Jeremy, better known as Wispy Whitesmoke. In my case, specifically when it came to Sun and Moon and Pokemon Legends Arceus having the final evolutionary forms leaked for me, really did kill a lot of the surprise and discovery that I feel like would have made those games a lot more fun.
There is a really interesting interplay between people's desire for leaks and spoilers and what is officially revealed through marketing. It's a very delicate balance to release the right amount of necessary information officially. If a company releases too much info, they risk overexposure and/or spilling too much of the game before it even comes out. But if they don't provide enough, or the drip feed of information and announcements is too vague, lacking, or poorly sequenced, you open the door for leaks, rumors, and the inevitable unreal expectations those may create.
They don't reveal barely anything, right? They will reveal, 15 Pokemon max. And, with random, wild Pokemon, I don't really care. But, they reveal so little about important Pokemon. This is something that has, distinctly bothered me with both Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus. They never showed off the designs of the final starter evolutions, or hell, even the middle starter evolutions in Sword and Shield's case, until weeks after the game had come out. And with a Pokemon as important as the starter, you really do need to know what you're going into before you pick it. There's certain information that you probably should tell the player that they just don't. I don't know why.
Barely anything is teased. There was Aracuda hinted at when Cramorant dropped, and Impidimp was part of the hype cycle without being official reveals, but Pokemon doesn't even hint at surprises, which makes leaks more desirable to me.
I wish that companies like Game Freak would be more willing to show off their quality of life features that they add, remove, and hide, as I feel that's the main reason I look for leaks, spoilers, and rumors. For example, hiding advanced audio mixing behind a random NPC in Motostoke, who, if you're like me and avoid talking to NPCs in newer Pokemon games, you would never know had such an item.
Honestly, Game Freak just needs to tell and show us mechanics up front to help customers decide to buy.
It is hard to ignore the fact that each game has a very similar structure and gameplay. Spoilers, leaks, and rumors have kind of become a staple in the marketing because a lot of consumers are desperately seeking information to differentiate whatever new game is coming out from its predecessors. I don't think many other game communities have that same doubt about each installment's individuality.
In my opinion, the marketing cycle for Scarlet and Violet is going well. Not too much information has been revealed to where I'm not blocking myself from websites or making a new YouTube account like I have done in the past.
Specifically with Pokémon, I felt plenty of times in the past that they had shown too much about a new game, etc. I see this as a necessary evil, which is sometimes better, sometimes worse. And I don't bother avoiding these kinds of spoilers even if I find it unfortunate, because trying to do so would prevent me from participating in months of exciting discussion and speculation.
Some people maybe want to see a little bit too much. Like, the leaks are out there. If you want to see the leaks, go ahead and look at them. But don't pressure Game Freak to show this much. Because honestly, I'm good with what they've shown so far. I don't want anything new.
I feel like Pokemon evolutions specifically are advertised too much. Especially when they are late game. I was very excited for Hisuian, Zorua, and Zoroark, but they came so late that it's a drag waiting to find them. The design is so cool, I think it would have been more impactful as a surprise. At least Zoroark, so something would have been a mystery.
Leaks I have mixed feelings on. They can ruin a lot of lead-up that advertisers and reporters are planning to pace out before release. But if game developers are responsive, it can change an element of a game for the better from audience feedback.
I kind of feel like sometimes these are inside jobs. Like, I don't know if that's real or not, but they've given out, like, I want to say less than 10% of the decks. I don't know. It makes me think, like, are they trying out something new where it's like they don't give as much, but they feed into the leaks to draw hype, and there's social media traffic? I don't know. There's a growing community of people who look at leaks as being synonymous with, like, evil or immoral. And I think there's probably some merit to that, but, I would like to think I'm not the one actually stealing the information. I'm not stealing the IP and I am sharing it, but I'm not, I'm not actually leaking. I'm like reporting on news, right? I don't think that's like bad of me, right? The information's already out there. But I do think the conversation's changing.
I'm not covering the legality of leaks in this video. I think that is a conversation to be had and maybe a topic for a video in the future. But legal or ethical concerns around leaks were often cited as reasons to avoid them.
Pokemon, to me, is a game where you should explore things yourself. Posting anything before the games even come out is disrespectful to the developers who work so hard to keep things a surprise, only for certain assholes on the internet to ruin it for them.
Leaks are stolen content, and it's disrespectful to the creators of the games who spent years working on it. The guy who brought the leaked Alola starters to the Game Freak employees in public just to see the reaction and brag about it online was so incredibly rude.
Leaks should always be treated as negative. If they're true, it might be content the creators don't want out there, or might be in the chopping block because of circumstances within the process of game development.
I really think we should stop giving leaks and leakers any attention, stop seeking them out, and stop normalizing the issue.
Of course, to make sure that all opinions are represented here, I have to include the people who are indifferent, who neither seek nor avoid leaks and spoilers.
A Pokemon game at the end of the day is a Pokemon game. I'm going to buy it regardless of whatever is in it. I just love Pokemon that much. Sure, it's unfortunate to see leaks and spoilers in thumbnails, but at the end of the day, I love Pokemon, so I'll always play it.
I think I have a pretty lax view on spoilers, even if I get a whole story spoiled. If I like the sound of it, I'll still give it a go and get the same level of enjoyment. It's probably a different type of excitement and enjoyment, but in terms of positive experiences, I would put them on a level playing field.
I try not to look at any leaks, but just a couple won't hurt. I don't need to drastically change my habits.
If movie spoilers have taught me anything, it's that if knowing a spoiler beforehand ruins the whole experience, the experience probably wasn't that good to begin with. If you get hit with a spoiler, now your surprise can just be replaced with anticipation.
Spoilers aren't as bad as people make them out to be. Maybe it doesn't lose value because of prior information. The only thing lost is surprise. But unless surprise is central to the experience, I doubt spoilers will have any lasting effect on the consumer.
We are nearing the end here, but we need to return to the balance of responsibility. Is it up to content creators to make sure that their content is presented in a way that only people who want to see it will see it? Or is it up to content consumers to make sure that they avoid the spaces where they might see the things that they don't want to see? Earlier, I said that when it comes to rumors, survey respondents put more responsibility on the consumers. Actually, the responsibility of the consumer is pretty even across all three categories, with slightly under 20% saying that it's not the consumer's responsibility. But how much responsibility is put on the creators is very different between rumors and leaks and spoilers. While 26% of people let creators off the hook for rumors, only about 10% of people said they're free of responsibility for leaks or spoilers.
I don't think it's content creators' responsibility to create warnings for spoilers, leaks, rumors. It's just kind of a nice thing to do.
I feel like it's completely up to the player to take measures to prevent themselves from being spoiled. Nobody should wait for you specifically to beat a game in order to start talking about it. After some time passes, let's say a month, I feel like anything should be fair game.
When it comes down to it, there's not much you can do to avoid leaks. I mean, it's the world we live in. Information can travel so fast, so quickly to so many people. And if you know you're allergic to leaks, do your best, do your part to avoid them.
Largely, I believe that the responsibility involved in avoiding spoilers, rumors, and leaks falls to the person sharing that information. And such information should be appropriately tagged and presented as such, to allow for unwitting passersby to avoid it.
If you're paying attention, though, you'll notice that for most people, the responsibility is shared between the two sides of the equation.
As a creator, and just as a person in general, you can't please everyone. My philosophy is like, try to be respectful to most people, but like, no matter what you do, there's going to be some people who are going to be a little irritated. And I just don't think worrying about a small minority of people who are upset about whether you like showed a new Pokemon in a thumbnail or not is worth too much mental energy. Because in the grand scheme of things, only a few months later, I feel like no one's going to care anymore, you know?
Let's say, for example, I'm a content creator and I have mentioned and I have stated that, there won't be spoilers on this channel, that kind of thing. And there is some kind of like promise or trust between the creator and the viewer. Then that's a different game.
As creators, we can try to establish trust like that with our audience at large, so at least our regulars will know what to expect. But we can't do that on an individual basis, at least not when it comes to the content that we're putting out there. But it's a little different when we, or anyone, are just having a conversation, whether it's online or in person. I've seen tons of people just straight up talk about leaked stuff when someone didn't even mention anything about them. Also, in relation to speculation and fan theories, people will straight up confirm or deconfirm someone's theory, which is no fun.
I've met people, mainly small Twitch streamers, who get mad at me for spoiling them in chat. But when I tell them that the info was officially shown in trailers or on the official website, they get all snarky with me and say, well, I don't watch all the trailers because even they spoil too much anyway. These kinds of people are so obnoxious. They're like the people that see a movie in theaters and laugh at a joke that was already shown in the trailers. If you stream Pokemon playthroughs and aren't caught up with all the info officially revealed about the game, you are just boring to watch.
People should be told it's not okay to talk about leaks if they are not specifically what the conversation is about.
People should have the right to talk, speculate, and enjoy spoilers/rumors, but they must know that other people may do not want to know anything about an upcoming game. I've seen so many people on Twitter posting, reblogging spoilers, rumors, and stuff without even thinking, oh, maybe I should obscure the post and let the people decide if they want to see it or not. And that's what I don't get. Why people do not think of others? People that don't think about the others scare me.
One of the options that I included as a reason why people seek rumors, leaks, and spoilers was to be able to ruin things for others. About 4.5% of people said that's part of the reason why they look for leaks or spoilers. It's a small but still very significant portion. Interestingly, but probably not surprisingly, not a single person defended making this choice, although 2 said that including it as an option was so based.
I love surprises. I also enjoy not being a jerk. To me, the same rules that forbid time travelers from revealing future events also apply to spoilers. Never tell anyone. Ever.
If you are talking about spoilers and or leaks, all I ask is that you give people a chance to avoid them. Maybe don't make the starter evolutions your literal profile picture months before the game comes out.
I think that people who go out of their way to spoil the game for others, like in YouTube videos or others, are kind of stinky doo-doo fart.
Anyway, there is one moment in the release cycle of the games when the dynamics changes significantly, and that's on release day itself.
Yeah, the day you're allowed to post Scarlet and Violet content, I would go crazy because this is at a competition, right? Because I know everyone else is doing it. If you can't beat them, join them. kind of thing. As much as it sucks to say it, that's the truth of the matter. In an ideal world, you would wait like a week or so to post these things. But I know off rip, everyone's going to have all the legendaries, mythicals, starter Pokemon, all the big Pokemon in there in their thumbnails. And unless I show that myself, I don't feel like my videos can get views. It's not even just for competition's sake. It's just that as much as I would like to be nice and give everyone like a 1 week leeway, the games are out. At that point in time, I feel like if you're a viewer, if you're on YouTube and you're looking up Pokemon content, in a way, you're almost inviting spoilers.
And releasing the game counts as the official channels releasing something. If the game is officially released, anybody can see it. It's on all the Cerebees and Bulbapedias and all that. Do what you want. Because if a person is that intent on not being spoiled, they need to stay off YouTube. I feel a bit bad for the people who can't get it immediately. Kids who want to avoid it and they can't get it till a month later when Christmas happens. But that is just kind of the unfortunate reality of the situation, because once the game's out, everyone's going to talk about it. The plot points, I kind of feel more like it's more respectful to at least wait a bit, if you put, here's the surprise final boss on day one, then that's okay, you don't need to do that.
If it's the first episode of a playthrough, then I get it. The subscriber didn't know that you were going to make a playthrough on your channel and they didn't have time to unsubscribe or unclick the notification button. I don't think PokeTubers ever consider what has been in the trailer or not when the game is already released.
Before the game comes out, I think it's 100% the creators. No shot. But once the game comes out, I think it's all up to the viewer.
If you're like me and you still want to avoid spoilers even after the game has come out, it's especially important to know what you can do to avoid them. Personally, I take 2 steps from when my blackout begins 4 months before the release until a month or 2 after the release when I feel comfortable looking at everything again. 1, I switch from using Twitter proper to using TweetDeck, where I can have more control over what gets shown to me. And 2, on YouTube, instead of looking for videos on my homepage or my subscriptions box, I only look in my notifications and my watch later list. So I don't have to unsubscribe from anyone, I just have to adjust my notification settings. Thankfully, YouTube has the Don't Recommend Channel feature, and I use it liberally when creators get too obnoxious for my liking.
I have multiple profiles on YouTube. When the new games come out, I'll completely switch off it and stay on my main profile until I've completed the game. I also have to avoid a bunch of subreddits I like, which sucks, but it's what I have to do.
There should definitely be more tightly knit communities for leaks, and there are, like the dedicated subreddit. But I don't want to come check on a shiny hunting channel only to see a video entitled Entire Pokedex Leaked. Try to warn people at least.
You would filter out certain things on Twitter, leaks, spoilers, this, that, whatever. But at certain times, if they're just here's a fan of Alcremie, I don't have fan or Alcremie muted. I'm kind of screwed at that point.
Make sure you tag your channel in general as either spoiler-free or spoiler-friendly. Be aware your community will talk about spoilers in the comments.
That's a pretty good idea for creators. If you can somehow make it very clear to your audience what to expect, the experience will be better for everyone. And YouTube, if you're listening...
I think YouTube should have a spoiler tag for videos, or at least sections, and users should be able to toggle between the options.
Spoiler tags for videos and thumbnails would be really cool. And on Twitter as well, for that matter, but these features don't exist yet. I know that was a lot of information. I hope that you got something out of it. I know I did. The purpose of this video was not to make a point, to convince you of how you should behave. Above all, I meant this as an ethnography, a description of how the community behaves around rumors, leaks, and spoilers.
Hello, my name is Ember Shallows. I feel like what's often overlooked is that we all like to play Pokemon our own way, and our playstyle and experiences in-game affect our reaction to these, which in turn impacts new experiences.
Hearing all of these different opinions gave me a much stronger sense of why people look for this kind of information, or why others avoid them for reasons that are different from mine. So if there's one takeaway that I hope everyone has, it's that we live in a society. It's obvious that we don't all agree on what matters most, that we're each looking for something different. But it doesn't take much to respect those differences and let everyone have the experience they want. For example, just because I'm not looking at spoilers myself, doesn't mean I can wash my hands of responsibility for accidentally spoiling others. I spoiled Ursa Luna for a couple of people last time around, so as I'm going through Scarlet and Violet and making my adventure journal, I have to be more conscientious of my thumbnail practices. I haven't quite decided how I'll handle things, but at the very least, I'll have to warn my audience if spoilers are likely to show up in the thumbnails for that series, because it's not something that people usually expect from me.
I think it's cool that there's a mix of people out there and that there's people that are actively mindful of spoilers, not only just on a pure moral and respect basis, but also I think it's cool when there's creators that somehow avoid spoilers themselves and then put out interesting content because it's a true blind reaction. And I don't think many PokeTubers can say that.
Funny to hear that, because going through all of these responses gave me a newfound appreciation for the community aspect of hype season. It is something that I miss. I love talking about officially revealed information with others that don't consider it a spoiler. It makes me feel more included in the community. And hearing how restrained the marketing has been this time around, and I know that not everyone thinks that that's a good thing, but for me, it makes me feel like I might be okay to look at the official marketing next time. Still no leaks for me, but as much as encountering Pokemon organically through the gameplay is exciting, for some Pokemon, marketing is how Game Freak expects us to encounter them. For many Pokemon, like the Lords in Legends or Gym Leader Ace Pokemon in other games, the games build up to that moment to make that Pokemon feel really special. But in some cases, that build up to an exciting reveal happens in the marketing, and by not looking at it, I am missing out. Well, I haven't decided yet, but it's a possibility. Thank you for sticking with me through this whole video. I'm sorry that it was so long, especially to myself and to my editor. If you learned anything new, let me know in the comments. This video really was a community effort. I had help from my friends in designing the survey and sorting through the responses, and of course in voicing the textual comments. Thank you also to all 1,500 of you who responded to the survey, especially the 500 of you that left a longer video, audio, or text comment, or who agreed to an interview, or who just helped spread the survey so that it could reach more people. This study, this video, would not have been the same without help from all of you. And as always, thank you to my patrons and YouTube channel members who help make videos like this possible, especially Cherished Patron, Wispy Whitesmoke, and Luxury Patrons, Ethan from Chicago, Freebird Nerd, and Seafood Dinner. I'll see you in the next chapter.